2021 marks 50 years since the seat of the People's Republic of China was restored at the United Nations. President Xi Jinping will deliver a speech on Monday, October 25th. It's 5 decades since the UN resolution was passed. Ahead of the anniversary, Beijing has published a position paper on China's cooperation with the global body over the years. This paper reviews China's contributions to upholding world peace and security, promoting global development and safeguarding the international rule of law. Since 1990, China has dispatched over 50,000 peacekeepers to nearly 30 UN missions. It has also met the poverty eradication target of the UN Agenda for Sustainable Development 10 years ahead of schedule. The paper also covers China's role in supporting the UN on international affairs, human rights and healthcare. China says it has been able to deliver over 1.5 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccines to over 100 countries and organizations. The paper also mentions China's commitments, saying that it will continue to be a builder of world peace, a contributor to global development, a defender of the international order, and a provider of public goods.
Maintaining international peace and security, promoting healthy relations and cooperation. Despite being a founding member and one of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council in 1945, China's seat was still occupied by representatives of the Kuomintang in 1949, even though it was overthrown by the Chinese people. A long struggle to restore China's lawful seat at the UN began. For years, it seemed that every effort was met with resistance. Heavily influenced by Washington, the UN General Assembly repeatedly voted down the resolutions on the matter. However, during the 1960s, China's case for the restoration of its lawful rights began to find favor with more nations, and in 1970, it finally had a majority within the General Assembly. A year later, a proposal by the U.S. to create what they called two Chinas, or one China and one Taiwan in the UN, was rejected outright by the Chinese Foreign Ministry.
The countries of the world were divided into 2 camps, the socialist camp and the U.S.-led capitalist camp. China belonged to the socialist camp, and the world organizations primarily dominated by the so-called capitalist camp. In part because of the Cold War and also in part because of the Korean War, China and the United States became sort of enemies. So the U.S. decided to support Chiang Kai-shek's regime to represent China at the UN and refused China's representation. That lasted for a long time.
On October 25, 1971, China finally got the breakthrough it wanted. The UN General Assembly adopted Resolution 2758 with an overwhelming majority.
Voting is as follows: in favor 76, opposed 35, abstention 17. The draft resolution adopted. China will be notified accordingly.
It restored all rights to the People's Republic of China and recognized the representatives of its government as the only legitimate representatives of China to the United Nations. China had waited 22 years. From being shut out to resuming its lawful seat to honoring its commitments for the past 50 years, China has been involved in the UN's undertakings and played an increasingly important role in the world body. Over the past 5 decades, China says it has made continuous efforts to support the United Nations. China currently contributes the largest number of peacekeepers among the permanent members of the UN Security Council. It has provided nearly $62 billion in assistance to 166 countries and international organizations, and is now taking action on climate change by pledging to peak its CO2 emission before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060.
China has also benefited a lot from being part of the international system. Probably 10 years ago, Bob Zoellick, the Undersecretary of the U.S. State Department, he coined a phrase. He said China is a stakeholder of the existing international order. I think he's probably right. China still has a huge stake in the existing international order. China wants the order to be stable. China wants the world to be prosperous. China endorses the UN to play a larger role.
Following many early ups and downs within the UN, China finally found its feet on the international stage, and is keen to make a lasting and positive impact. The Chinese government says it will always stay true to its original aspirations and is determined to connect more with the world. Wang Suwen, CGTN, Beijing.